Paul Simpson has been sacked by Carlisle United. I know it happened on Saturday night, but did he deserve the sacking? Let me know your thoughts, Carlisle fans or neutrals like me, in the comments down below. On his time at Carlisle, we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about his legacy at Carlisle. We're going to talk about the expectations for Carlisle this season, and was that one of the main reasons why he got sacked. We're going to talk about the timing of the sacking as well. We're going to talk about the recruitment and his style of play, and who should be the next Carlisle manager. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you do go on to do so. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 700 subscribers. All support is massively appreciated. Let's get into it. So we'll kick off then with legacy. Has his legacy been tarnished? I think the opposite. I think it's definitely cemented his legacy as a legend at Carlisle United, but I think it's done it a bit of a boost in the legacy ranking of being a legend, in my opinion. But obviously, Carlisle fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You obviously know a lot more about your football club than me, and how you'd rank Paul Simpson up there. But for me, obviously, when he came in at Carlisle in his first spell, they were under financial trouble. They were under a transfer embargo, and he couldn't save them from relegation. He got the bounce out of them. They went out. I think they got promoted by the playoffs in the National League. Then back-to-back promotions followed, winning the League 2. And then he came back in the 2021-22 season till the end of the season. Short-term contract to try and keep Carlisle in League 2. And he did that. They were 23rd when he took over. 23rd of February, I think it was. And they had 5 wins from 7 around March period. And that's what kept them up ultimately. And he got the contract, I think it was a 3-year contract. They obviously won the playoffs in the 22-23 season, beating my team Bradford City in the playoff semi-final and beating Stockport in the final, and that's cemented him with 3 promotions, but unfortunately a second relegation followed after a 46-game season in League 1, saw them only pick up 30 league points. And only picking up 3 points from an available 12 is obviously not how you would have wanted the season to start, and that has ultimately cost Paul Simpson his job, but not his legacy. I think it's only improved it, in my opinion. Was the timing of the sacking harsh? Was the timing of the sacking right? Let me know your thoughts, Carlisle fans. But in my opinion, it looks harsh on the surface. Obviously, only 4 games in. I always feel like a manager should never be sacked 4 games in, 5 games in. I don't think a manager should be sacked less than 10 games in. And if they have been sacked in that time period, we've already seen Neil Critchley, Ryan Lowe depart Preston and Blackpool respectively, and now they're first League 2 casualty in Paul Simpson at Carlisle. I always feel like if you're getting sacked that early, the ownership don't have the confidence in you, maybe the fans don't have the confidence in you, and there's ongoing issues previous to you getting sacked, and that screams at alarm bells already 4 games in, but that wasn't there, clearly, and he shouldn't have been given the transfer window. It was a big season for Carlisle, and if they didn't have the confidence in Paul Simpson to lead them to where they expected to be, with that full transfer window, then for me they should have moved him on and had a look at the sort of manager profile they'll now be looking at. I feel like it was possibly harsh on Paul Simpson to be giving him this opportunity if they didn't have that full confidence in him, and I think it's also put pressure on Piatek? I think that they're the ownership group. It's put pressure on them now, because if they don't get this manager right, they're going to be labelled as they don't know what they're doing, and their vision and their ownership model will be questioned by that big decision. So for me, they should have sacked him previous to the season starting, maybe midpoint last season, obviously when it wasn't going well. They shouldn't have given him this transfer window, and to sack him one day after it, that screams alarm bells as well. Although the ownership, the owner, Piatek, came out after the game talking about the sacking, and he said it don't matter when we sack them, because the players we've bought in, we feel like they're good enough to play for any manager and to suit our model, which I don't think they necessarily do. I don't think you can exactly play a passing out the back style of play with Hayden and Reich if that's what they want to go to, which I've heard a few fans would like to see Carlisle move towards. That sort of a strategy with maybe a younger coach as well. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But yeah, I feel like the timing's off. But when you do look at last season and how he finished, I feel like it was the most inevitable sacking to happen so far this season. And that takes us nicely onto the recruitment then. Greg Abbott runs the recruitment side from what I can see and from what I know. He's sort of the spearhead. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is at the top of the recruitment tree, let's say, at Carlisle, from what I can see anyway. and obviously we're involved in the recruitment of Bradford City. I think he's one of those. He's like your Stuart McCalls. He's like those sort of people who are, salt of the earth people, great men in football and lovely people, but are they good enough for the job? And that's what's being questioned at him at Carlisle. He's brought in quite a few former Bradford City players. Harry Lewis being the big one, Charlie Wyke as well. And when you look at the profile of players that's coming out, I feel like under Paul Simpson, I don't feel like I've looked at, and if my eyes have done me right and me counting, then that's 57 signings he's had at Carlisle, and obviously the last 2 windows there's been money thrown at it, and I feel like when I look at the profile signings that there weren't good enough signings when they win League One to try and get them out that relegation zone. Harry Lewis, Luke Armstrong coming in, I didn't feel like they were good enough to get you out that relegation battle. There weren't good enough profile signings for there. You were building for League Two with those signings, and then a few others as well. You look at this summer anyway, you got Hayden and Wyke who are sick notes. They've had injury problems before. Wyke's had more serious health issues before. They're question mark signings. I'm sure Tyrell Thomas has problems with injuries as well. Not to mention, a lack of quality with declining players coming into a football club as well. That's just an opinion. And then you also look at, Kelly. He's already injured. I know he won't brought in this summer, but to be already injured at this stage, that's poor. The lack of quality in midfield in terms of creative wise. I think Jones had a good game against Tranmere. He looked like their only creative player, but the end product were poor. So there's a real lack of quality in recruitment for Carlisle over the last few seasons, where they've thrown money at wages or wherever, but they haven't been the right players to bring in. And injuries is a big one. You want to be avoiding that, and I don't feel like they have, in my opinion. So that's another area where it's gone wrong for Paul Simpson. Not necessarily blaming him, because managers don't have a big say in recruitment at the minute. But I'm sure he would have had the last say on some of those signings, and I don't think they've been fully the right signings, and they need to rethink that whole area, in my opinion. So style of play as well has been something that's frustrated Carlisle fans over the tenure of Paul Simpson more in the last year or so. The 5-3-2 has been deployed, and the problem with the 5-3-2 is it can be very rigid. If you're not getting results, it's a very defensive, pragmatic formation, and it's very hard to create anything when you've got the ball, because you need your wing backs high and wide, and you need your number 8s, your 2 central midfielders. You've probably got a defensive midfielder. I think that's more Harrison Neal. They need to be creative. They need to have a bit of flair about them, and I don't feel like Carlisle do, at least this season. I've said Jones has a bit of that. I like the 2 lads that brought in from Bournemouth as well on loan. They look like quite flair, pacey players, but apart from those who have been sort of trying to work their way into a team so far this season, there's not a lot of flair in that team. There's not a lot of pace in that team, not a lot of creativity in that team. And when you play quite a defensive formation anyway, when your centre-backs like to back off, like to sit in deep and soak up pressure, and you're quite a direct side, it makes it quite lethargic, quite a tough viewing experience anyway for Carlisle fans. And that's how it's gone so far this season for Carlisle under Simpson. And if you're not getting results when you've got 3 points for a possible 12, that's something that's going to be angry. Let's just say you could definitely hear the views of the Carlisle fans at the full-time whistle, and Paul Simpson were left shaking his head down the touchline towards the Carlisle fans, and that won't have done him any favours either. They started well in that game though against Tranmere. Obviously they conceded 4 to Gillingham, 3 to MK Don's leaky back line, but they played at a good intensity. You could see what they wanted to do, but then second half came, they got desperate, then they were slowing their own game down, they looked lethargic, and they looked without a plan. You looked at them and you think, what are you trying to do here? And that's never a good sign, and it did look like the game of the last game of a manager, and that's certainly how it planned out to be under Paul Simpson, unfortunately for him. And when you look at the expectations, outside looking in, when you're hearing the noise from the Carlisle fans and the ownership, they want to be a top 3 club. They want to bounce straight back out the league. You've got to, Bradford have been stuck down here in about 7 years now. If we don't go up this season, it's a very tough league to get out of if you don't bounce straight out of it. And Carlisle will have had the intentions to do that, like I say, quite consistently in this video. They have thrown money out on high-profile players, and they're expecting much better from the start they've had. Another reason why he was sacked, because after last season, he had to have a quick start, and he hasn't. Not the easiest of fixtures, but there's no easy fixtures in this division, and definitely not getting off to a good start definitely didn't help him with the high expectations and the problems they had last season. And when results and performances way off, it were only going to go one way, and that was out the exit door for Paul Simpson, unfortunately. So who do I bring in next? Pete Wild is highly tipped to be the new manager. There's the others as well. You've got your Gareth Ainsworth, but I'm not going to say who I think or should be the next Carlisle manager. I want you to let me know in the comments down below. Who do you want to take over Carlisle next? What type of manager do you want? Do you want a young manager or a more experienced manager? Do you want to go away from what you've been playing like under Paul Simpson at the minute, or do you want to sort of stick with that sort of model? Did you feel like the sacking was fair or unfair? Do you feel like it was deserved? And how would you rate the Paul Simpson era for the second time at Carlisle? And would you say he cemented himself as a legend, or tarnished it, or boosted that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new, on the road to 700 subscribers. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the support recently. It is massively appreciated. Have a good one.